Hey guys, welcome back to Royas Godot. I'm Tate,
I'm Patrick.
and today we're going to be doing a New Year's reflection video like we did last year. It's a bit late, but
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, happy belated New Year. It's 2025. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to be going through our Godot's pros for the year. It's a year in reflection. We've been using Godot for a year. The pros of Godot, the cons of Godot, and the future where we want to see Godot move towards. Alright.
Yeah.
So, Godot pros. Godot pros. My first thing I have listed in the pros section is the updates.
Oh yeah, the frequency. And they've been really high quality.
The frequency, the high qualityness of the updates. Yeah.
Yeah, whereas like when we stopped using, well, we're still using Unity, but like Unity, it was getting like buggier every update I found. And most of the updates I didn't care about.
Well, and like when they pushed out ECS in Unity, like it was a mess. Like it was terrible. You had like engineers quitting over it and stuff, so it's like it wasn't good. Godot, for the most part, the updates are relatively stable. There are some few hiccups here and there, but for the most part,
which we'll get to in the cons.
Yeah, we'll get to in the cons. I guess that's all we have to say for that. Do you have anything else?
For the updates?
For the pros. For the pros.
Oh, for the pros? Oh, okay. Honestly, I think I like how I've gotten super used to just using it for various, like, overcoming its challenges, I would say.
Oh, that's a pro, is to overcome its challenges?
Well, like, it's not that hard to.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Easy to learn.
Yeah, it's easy to learn. Yeah, that's a good... Wow, that was hard for me to say.
I was confused there for a second. Okay, yeah, that's...
Like, because, yeah, I found it initially weird to use their scene manager, but it was super easy to build a new scene manager. I don't like the get node system, but, like...
It's easy to build a
component.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Like, almost all the issues I've had with Godot have just been super easy to overcome. It's just, it takes a little bit more effort on your part, but like that's good because like that makes you a better dev, I think.
Yeah, I think the way Godot, because Unity kind of gives you a lot of pre-built things, whereas in Godot it's like, here's the tools to build everything. But I also want to tack on to this easy to learn. The documentation's really good.
Yes.
I will give them a lot of credit. I read through the docs a lot when I'm doing projects. Like,
same.
Like a lot.
Pretty much given up on Unity, except when like looking at their API.
Exactly. So like, I will give Godot credit, and honestly, this is probably what I think separates it from other open source engines. Is just how good their docs are.
Absolutely. So another benefit I would say is the amount of nodes.
Nodes.
Like,
okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't put that under the easy to learn, but.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, this is pro. Okay, amount of nodes.
Yeah, like we just said before that like Unity gives you a lot of pre-built stuff. So does Godot. It's just they're different things that are pre-built.
Yeah.
And I find that Godot gives you a lot of control on the things that are pre-built even to modify them. Unity like does and doesn't. But yeah, the amount of nodes, like almost always if I'm looking to solve a challenge, I can just go through the nodes list and like there's something that'll pertain to what I'm doing and I just have to modify it.
For example, like the item list or something.
Yeah, like for the inventory system.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah. So do you have anything more there or?
No, what about you?
Okay, I don't have anything more for the amount of nodes, but I love the deeper access to core systems.
Like the physics system.
Like physics server or the render pipeline.
Yes.
That is great. I love it. Don't change that. Unity locked it down. I don't have experience with Unreal, I can't say for sure. But it's to take the Godot feeling. Patrick and I talk about this, like taking the engine feeling out of your game. And because like you can really easily tell like an Unreal Engine game based on how the textures and lighting works, right?
Yeah, and a lot of old Unity games suffer from this as
And
well.
a lot of
where it's
old
like,
Unity
that
games, like Thunder the
feels like a
Arrival.
Unity game. Yeah,
Like that, not Thunder the Arrival. What was it? Slender
the
the Eight
original
Pages.
Slender.
Yeah, Slender the
Yeah.
8 Pages. Had the Unity feel, and I feel like having the deeper access to like the render pipeline, it just makes it easier to pull it out, essentially, and make your game feel more like your game.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with that.
Okay. Do we have anything more for the pros?
I can't think of any right now.
That's all I have listed. Okay, we're into the cons now.
Now, we've probably got quite a few cons, but like, that's just, nitpicks for the most part.
Okay, cons. They need to work on stability a bit more.
Yes, that's my number one thing too.
Yeah.
Is like, the engine crashes more than, we used Unity 2019 at work. Godot crashes more for me. There's a bunch of nodes that don't work fully as advertised. I ran into this while making a few videos. So like my BB code video, I made one in GDScript and C#, and like if I arranged them in a certain order in C#, none of them would work. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. And so I made the GDScript. I started working on the GDScript video, and I arranged them in the same order as the C#, and it didn't work with that. So I had to reorder them based on which language I was using, or it just wouldn't function, which was kind of annoying, and I couldn't figure out any specific reason as to why adding tags to the stack would do that. But it did. And another video I worked on was the 2D point and click, and it didn't have stably working hole punching in the nav mesh. So I'd try and like punch a hole in the nav mesh, and like it worked maybe 20% of the time. And if I added a new hole, half the time it would break the old holes. So I had to actually remove that from the nav mesh video altogether, was the hole punching in the nav mesh.
I will say I was working with a 2D nav mesh, and I did punch holes in it, and it was actually fairly stable recently.
Oh, so maybe they fixed that.
Over Christmas, I was doing that.
Oh, okay.
So that works.
That.
I think they did fix that.
Yeah. But yeah, there's just like things like that where a lot of the nodes don't quite do, like they don't quite do everything they're labeled as doing.
Yeah.
Properly.
Okay. This is a nitpick from me. I wish the items in the UI were built out of each other.
Yes, I do agree. Kind of like in Unity, if you have a button, you have like your button, and then below it you have your text label or whatever, and it's just like, oh, you can modify each one of those as needed.
Yeah, and again, it's more just, it's like a stack. It's built out of each other. Whereas like it's like if you want an item list, you get an item list. Like it has a text field. But, like, it's not the same as a label. You're not going to get all the same options as a label. Whereas, like, in Unity, it would have been a label.
And so aligning things and doing stuff like that, specifically for stylization, is a lot easier.
In Unity, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, that's a nitpick out of mine. Maybe you could do it. Like, you could definitely build your own systems, but, like, essentially, Godot kind of, from what I understand, expects you to. And again, that's what we were getting to in the fact that Godot gives you a lot of nodes, and Godot expects you to build more things yourself. Like, they give you some very odd, like, I would say placeholder stuff, like the item list.
To get you started quickly. You're probably going to have to, if you're doing your own game, and the nodes don't specifically fit what you're working on, you're probably going to have to write your own.
Yeah. Okay.
We did talk with like a game developer who uses Godot for his company, and he was saying that that's basically what he had to do. Is they used Godot 3 and like they had to rewrite. Yeah, they forked the engine and rewrote. He said almost 50% of it, because it's like things didn't work quite the way he wanted, and he's like, that's kind of just what you expect with Godot.
Yeah. And so, like, yeah. So it seems like Godot's kind of in this weird phase where it's like you have like these ultra pros who are like rewriting the engine, and then you have currently the beginners, the newcomers, who are just learning to program and stuff. And so it kind of creates this weird situation where it's like the Godot community's just slowly maturing, I guess.
Well, and it's split because it's like there's kind of just this gulf where I don't feel like there's much room for the mid-tier developers who, like, you know, aren't rewriting the engine, but like they've got a lot more abilities.
Yeah.
Rather, like, above the basics.
Yeah. And so I'm assuming that's just going to be fixed with time. Unity initially started out the same way. Like,
yeah.
It's just
actually,
like,
I don't think they had much for the advanced.
Yeah,
initially.
no, they didn't have anything for the advanced. So it was all the beginners, and they eventually got to the mid tier. But Unity, again, once you got to the more advanced, and it's like, I want to modify the render pipeline, that's when they told you no. So
yeah.
There was a ceiling, I think, on Unity of how advanced you could get. But in Godot, like we talked about, the deeper access doesn't really give you that ceiling.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have another thing for the comments?
I don't, do you?
I do. It's more complaints about the UI system. Changing themes.
Oh, yes, actually, I was gonna mention that. I completely forgot.
Changing themes in UI. This was specifically one thing you wanted to talk about, so I just remembered.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Why do you hate this system?
So,
or not hate, but you don't like it.
Themes are like a thing I feel that are great conceptually, where it's like, oh, you just create one or two themes for your game, and then you just dump them onto everything, and then you don't have to constantly recreate those themes. You don't have to worry about fonts and blah 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 blah. It's great, but like, oftentimes, at least on the games I've worked on, we don't have that many menus, so like the benefit isn't that great. Whereas when you're just banging out a project very quickly in Unity, it's pretty fast and easy to just change the styling if you just have a couple buttons and stuff like that.
Again,
whereas Godot, yeah,
it's pulling the Unity feel out of the game.
Yeah, whereas Godot, it's a little bit more of a hassle, and sometimes the themes just won't actually modify the value that you want to modify. Like, we found with the item list, like, it was kind of difficult to align text labels where we wanted them to, using just the theme settings.
Yeah, like, because in item lists, like, the text label can be on the left or the bottom, and it's like, that's it. Like,
yeah,
which is a weird point to stop, I guess, but I don't know why, but it works, but I wouldn't use it if I was building a game, like, for example, because I'd want my own custom UI and everything, so, like, I would just probably ignore something like that and build my own.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I guess we can talk about the physics system.
Oh, we're talking about the physics system again.
Yeah, might as well. It's still an issue.
Okay, I'll preface this with, I haven't messed with the physics system at all recently. I've just been in UI a lot more lately.
Yeah.
But okay, go ahead.
I think it's still fairly inconsistent with things like, at least last time I used it, you had to be moving in order for a kinematic or like a character body to detect collisions with a rigid body, and like, I don't think rigid bodies detect collisions at all with character bodies and stuff like that. Like, there was like these weird
and then
things.
The weird matrix, the one way of the area 2D's collision,
like,
where it's like, an area 2D can collide with a rigid body, but a rigid body can't collide with an area 2D.
Yes, and things like that. And an area 2D can't collide with an area 2D, at least.
Yeah, they can. They can.
Oh, they can?
Yeah,
okay. Sweet. But yeah, things like that, like, it just feels very strange and disjointed. And so it kind of messes with where you have your detection on things.
And it really hole punches you into a way of setting up your project, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, there's less freedom, and I guess that is another thing we could talk about. Godot is opinionated.
Yes.
More opinionated.
Yeah,
It's not super opinionated. Out of the box. Godot has an idea of how they want you to set up your project. They have a very clear idea of how they want you to do that. But Unity kind of gives you more options. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, well, and like Unity pushes you into like componentization models, whereas like Godot doesn't. So like there's all these different things where it's like the engines will push you in a certain way on how to set your stuff up, whereas I feel like a beginner in Godot is not gonna think to do a componentization model, whereas in Unity it's basically like pushed onto you.
Yeah.
So like they're both opinionated, but like I feel like one is probably better for beginners.
Like, here's the way I'd put it. If you wanted to do a node system in Unity, you could easily do that, I think.
Oh, very easy.
But if you wanted to do a component system in Godot, then it's going to fight you because it's going to be like, oh, you can only have one script per node or something. And so it's like you're going to have to use their node system to kind of emulate that feel.
Exactly.
Like, it's very opinionated in how you should be doing your project.
Yes,
I'm not saying that's
the way you set up code and stuff. Yeah.
I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying, like, it's something I noticed. Like,
yes.
Because,
and
like, for beginners, that's great. Like,
in some ways.
Yeah.
Again, I do think componentization is really nice. And, like, Godot doesn't really push you in that direction at all, I feel. I feel like a lot of beginners are just going to dump a bunch of code into a single node script and call it a day and have these hyper-specific nodes rather than, like, being able to drop on a health component onto any enemy or character, anything, and just have it work.
Yeah.
And, like, drop on, you know, like, all these just different components and just have them work nicely, and so you don't have to rewrite things multiple times. I don't think Godot pushes you in that direction as much.
Godot,
you can do it.
Yeah, I think Godot expects you to repeat yourself maybe a little bit more than Unity does. Which is, like, if you read the Unix devs stuff, that's like their number one rule is don't repeat yourself. But
yeah,
Godot, I think personally, in my experience, requires you to repeat yourself a little bit more than Unity does.
Yeah, and I think you probably, if you're new as a dev, you'll probably repeat yourself a lot more than Unity. I don't think it's a little bit. I think it would be a lot of it if you're new.
Yeah.
Okay.
Future, where do we want Godot to go?
Yeah.
Where do we want Godot to go? I guess. I don't know. I don't know how to phrase this better.
Yeah.
That's all. That's what we're getting. We're running with it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously just improved stability patches.
Yeah, improved stability. Again, we've talked about it. It's a little bit unstable. Some nodes don't do what they want to do. Okay. I improved stability. I'm trying to think. Because thing is, in 4.4, it has a lot of the things I want.
I know. Like 4.4, it's basically exactly what I want.
Because, like,
an engine.
Like, something like, built, like, in editor running up your game for debugging purposes is in 4.4. And 4.4 isn't out yet, and so it's like we're gonna have to wait like 3 months, but like this is not a problem I could list or something I wish for because
it's going like it's being fixed.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
Like that is what I meant by the updates is because like they're so fast. Like Godot is next level, like just pushing out updates and they're really good and I really like them. Because, like, also, I guess, here's something I want more. I want more support from other companies.
Okay.
More support from third parties, like Fmod. And I know Godot has their own Fmod. I think they put it in 4.3. But I would like to see more support from things like Havoc engine, or not, yeah, the Havoc physics engine and stuff.
Yeah.
Currently, other companies don't really support Godot, and this isn't really something Godot can really do, I guess. It's more like the community has to kind of demand these things, and then eventually these companies will listen.
Yeah, and I think once do they have their store open yet? I haven't actually checked.
They don't have their store open yet.
I think that'll also be partially fixed when they add their store. Is like people be building a lot of the implementations for these things.
Yeah, but that was just something I've noticed. It's like, oh, like, you want to work with a Toby eye tracker. It's like Toby doesn't support it. You want to work with Fmod. Fmod doesn't support it. You want to work with, I don't know if Havoc supports it offhand, but
yeah.
For example, you want to work with Havoc. Havoc doesn't support it. Essentially, it's just a lot of these like industry standard tools just don't support Godot. And again, it's not really Godot's fault. It's getting there, but like, again, I do think, like you said, the store is going to improve that a lot.
Yeah, because people be building their own implementations of these things.
And then eventually companies will probably just buy them or build their own.
Yeah, exactly.
Anything else here?
I can't think of too much else. What about you?
I can't think of much.
I think that pretty much covers it. Like, this has been a really good year in Godot for me. I like the engine more and more every time I use it.
Here's the thing, I don't build personal projects in Unity anymore. Unity's just for work at this point. And I kind of dread, because I've learned to love what Godot has. Like,
yes, exactly, same. Like, I've really fallen in love with the engine over this past year. And so I think it's a very good engine, and I see myself using it in the future.
Yeah. Thank you to the Godot community. You guys have been awesome. Like, with all the comments we get on our videos, and like helping people is a big boon to our happiness with the engine. We love doing that. I think the community's very open to new ideas.
I think they are, yes.
Because I think the community was really receptive, for example, to our video on how to structure your online games. Got a lot of comments on that one being like, thank you so much. So thank you so much to the community. I think you guys are extremely open. I think this community is going to mature very quickly. I guess that's all I really have to say. You got any final words?
No, I think that pretty much covers everything.
All right. Thank you so much for 2024, guys. 2024 was a great year for Godot. Let's look forward to a better 2025. Thanks, guys.
All right, bye.